Hey, what is up, nation? In this session, I'm going to teach you how you can turn a planned sketch into a 3D model in SketchUp. Alright, so I found this conceptual plan by Garbee Architecture, PLLC. Feel free to go check out their work. I'm going to be using this existing drawing that they put together to make a 3D model of that. It's kind of interesting. If you want to go read that, I will link this in the description below about how they redesigned this kitchen for a new purpose, essentially, for a bakery. But yeah, so I saved this to my downloads folder, just right click, hit saved image. And then in SketchUp, we want to just open that, go to File, Import, and then in my downloads folder, I want to select this, but then down here, use image as. I just want to use this as an image, not a matched photo. So I'm going to hit that. And then it's going to want me to scale it. Now, I don't exactly know if this was your own file. You would probably know the width of something in here. So if you're not exactly sure, there's always sort of a good guess that you can take. You know, I'm not sure what's an interior wall, what's an exterior wall, but what I can kind of assume is that the opening here is going to be around 36 inches, especially an exterior. I'm assuming this is going to exterior because there's some walls or some windows here. It's probably a good bet is to assume that it's 36, so I'm going to just scale that. And if you didn't see what I just did there, is I took my tape measure tool, I went across here, and then I clicked, and then I typed in 36 inches and hit enter, and it let me scale that. Now what I always like to do when I am drawing something like this, let me just delete the scale figure, is make sure that I have a point of reference at my origin that makes sense. Typically that'll then help me with everything. So we have this, and you can put this on a different layer. What I'm going to do for this is I'm actually just going to lock it. Actually, I don't think I can do that right now because it's imported as an image. So I'm going to make it a group, and then I can lock it. So now I can't move that even if I try, unless I come in and then unlock it. The way that I like to start is by drawing the walls, or maybe even the floor. The floor might be a good point in this because it'll serve as a reference. Now the length, you can see down on the bottom right, it says 54. If I come in and I guess where it is, and you may have measurements on your drawing. For this, I don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to pick increments that are really close to what this is, but that are fairly nice. So you want to go like whole inches, or if you can, whole feet. So this is kind of like in the middle. It is really close to 54'6", and that's a decent size measurement. So I'm going to 54'6" and I'm going to do the same thing all the way around. It's just find an increment that's close, so 9'4", 16'10", and this just helps you keep nice numbers, because that's what you essentially want to end up with, is something that's fairly nice. And then I can just hold shift here to lock to that red axis, and then end, and I get my floor here. So that looks good. What I might do is actually unlock this, and then come in. I just double click that. I'm going to hit B, and then that's going to bring up this paint bucket tool, and then I'm going to hit Alt to select that, to get the eyedropper tool, and then come into this group and paint it. Now I can actually delete this one because my plan has that door, but this is on a separate layer, which is fine for what I'm trying to do. So we're going to make this like 8 inches, so it's a slab floor. And now we have our little plan. Now this is something that you can keep for reference as you do this. It may also help to just delete it when you're done. You may prefer that. So one thing that is helpful with this is just sort of having an idea of what the walls are. I don't know what these walls are, but if I just select this, and then I'm going to come out of that group, hit paste in place, I'm going to assume that the exterior walls are somewhere around 7 inches. That's typically what I draw exterior walls at, 2x6 walls. They're not actually 7 inches, but then you have some sheathing and and you're going to have an envelope as well. So 7 inches is like a good starting point, I found. It's what I've used before on my drawings, and then typically I use 5 inches for interior walls, unless you need to put extra stuff in them. Like bathroom walls might need to be a little bit bigger. So that looks actually really good, that 7-inch wall all the way around. See, there's some weird stuff going on here, but that's fine for what we're doing. We're just come in here, draw this down. So we have 7 inches about. So I'm just going to hit 7. I'm just going to make a little dot here you can't really see. And then assume that this is also 36 inches. So I'm just going to offset that 36. And then I can delete this little line there. I have this interior that I don't necessarily need. But what I'm doing now is you may want to like separate certain rooms depending on what you want to do with this. Like for this particular project, they were doing a remodel. So I'm not sure if some of these walls are structural and you're not planning on editing them. You may want to have those on as one separate group, model those separately. And then you can sort of like mess with the walls, the non-structural walls. But yeah, it just sort of helps to have an attack method for what you're doing. So we're just going to continue this. This goes all the way across. Assume that that's the same width or similar width at least. So you have that. Pantry, let's say 3 foot is good. Let's just make all, let's make all the walls 7 inches for now. Again, just coming down here, 2'2", that's a good increment. Just a nice even number is what I mean by that. 1 foot 7 inches. Good. Then we can take this because it looks like there's a line. We're just going to infer where that goes. And see we have some extra lines here, but that's fine. And this guy looks like it may not have connected. It's probably my fault. Okay. So it looks like this guy is almost finished, this little room over here. 2'7", so that looks good as well. You see it was inferring from over here. 2'7", if we go 3 foot. This may not actually be 3 foot. It looks fairly different. So we're just going to scale this up another 2 inches. There we go. So we have a bunch of walls here. It looks like this may be a counter with the refrigerator. And I guess a part of this is just really sort of understanding how to read plans. But if you drew it, hopefully you understand what you're drawing. But also, if you're working in an architecture firm or for an architect and they send you something like this, it's just important to understand the symbols about what you're drawing. So again, 11'9" looks good. And I may not type this every single time just because it's helpful to not have to do that. I want, if you're deciding, I would just want regular increments. It may help a little bit in here to change your units, your precision to just be at 0. That way you can see down there everything is at 0, and it just makes it a little bit easier. Now I don't have to worry about all those little lines. 7. This wall looks really thin. Right? So we have this guy, and we just need to extend this. So I'm just going to select this line. Okay. So we have a lot of walls going on here. If you want, you can sort of select. Maybe I want to hide this other layer for a little bit. It looks like we've got some issues with it may not be closing, so you just want to make sure that some of your lines are closed. That's always the tricky part. So when you get something like this, there is a plugin that should close edges. I'm just going to copy this off to the side so I can get like a little rendition of it. So what I'm going to do is select all these guys and then find that plugin. I think it's a Frito plugin. No. Edge tools. Find edge gaps. So it looks like there's something weird going on here. There we go. That was helpful, right? So I could just drag this, but since I know where it is, I'm just going to extend this up just to make sure. When you get something like that, you just want to double check to make sure that everything is aligned correctly, because it could be off a little bit, but this looks, to me, this looks fine. Just make sure that that's aligned. So it is. So now we have those lines back. I'm going to go back to hidden geometry and go unhide. Then we have this little bump out here. Again, this wall looks like it comes all the way across, and that's the kind of stuff that you want to make sure that you're picking up, because that can often mean that it's a structural wall. So like, and something like this where this little bump out is, there may be some kind of piping or something in there. That's why it's bumped out. Piping, beams, stuff like that is a good indication. And continuous walls are also, like this wall here, likely a structural wall. The ends here, probably structural walls. So, or maybe like even here, where you have a lot of openings, it may not be a structural wall because there's so many openings. Like here has a ton of openings, so I'd think that actually these two walls are structural, but I could also be wrong. But just having that kind of like mindset when you're going through this is really important, that this wall continues all the way through, that they're not going to jog it. Most of the time it's not going to be jogged unless, you know, from many years of additions, inconsistent quality additions, that is. And you can see here it's just like 1 foot, but we're getting some like really cool little things that are make the architecture what it is. This looks offset. It may be offset in this case, but I'm going to say that it's actually not offset, just because it'll make the model better, just make it everything look better. And in a lot of cases, in projects that I've worked on, we've even just made those things work out, because it's just weird to have a little unalignment, and it can make a big difference by just aligning them. Okay. It's like one of those subtle things that you don't really think about. So this looks like it comes down a little bit. I'm just hitting, so there you can see I hit move, and then when I started to move it, it's dragging this line. But if I hit control, it'll make a copy, and then I can just quickly place my my new line. Again, you can see that 2'8" is coming up a lot. It looks like there are a lot of 2'8" doors in this. Let's go 2 foot there. And I'm going to say these are aligned. They don't look aligned at all. But, I mean, how big is this? 1'5". I just can't believe that that's actually 1'5". But it's possible, but without actually having been there. It's hard to actually know. So, like, if you're doing something for an architect or, you know, a firm, and you're like, this seems weird, ask them before you make a decision. And I think that the trick really is to compile a list of questions. This should definitely be 3 feet. That's what I scaled everything to. Let me just offset this a little bit. There we go. That looks much better. Okay, so I think we have all of our walls. Let me just delete some of these extra lines. Yeah, so then you would know your floor to floor height. In this case, I don't actually know it. But what you have is there's some things going on that that you should just be aware of. Just get rid of some of these extra lines. So typical floor to floor height is 8 feet. That's pretty standard, but obviously there are lots of exceptions. Okay, some hide. Okay. So let's say we go 8 foot, right? And then I'm just going to double click this one, and it's just going to extrude it or push pull it that same height. Now there's also standard door height, which is 6'8". So if I go 6'8" here, we're going to come up, and if you want, you can just go 7. So I'm going to copy this shape actually. So I'm going to hit Control V there. You can't really see me do that, but then I'm going to erase these other lines and then paste. And I'm just going to go around really quick and put in these little, I don't even know what you'd call them. These little, I guess they're headers. I do know what you would call them. I should. Okay, so it looks like those are all set. The only one that is a different angle is actually this one. And I didn't put in the windows. I will go back and do that. I just forgot. But that's the one thing that you want to do too, is just double check that kind of stuff and make sure that everything is set. And we're going to actually have this line here. This header is going to be consistent. I don't know enough about the windows, but that's one thing that I've always done in architecture, is just have consistent window headers. So I'm just going to draw a line. You could use the tape measure tool and one of these buttons. I don't really use the tape measure tool, but you can draw a line like that, so it's not an actual line. So we have that. Okay, so and then we have this other. Just clicking once and then choosing a point. And then this guy. Okay, and then hit E here, and I can just erase these extra lines. Kind of cumbersome, but easier than selecting and deleting them. A little tip here is that actually if you hold Control while you do this, it will hide the line instead of deleting it. Okay, so we have that, and then we have our floor. Let me just delete this guy because we don't need it anymore. And we need to do the windows. This is actually probably good because notice we turn parallel projection on, and in geometry, unhide. You'll notice that now I can't see any of my windows. So what you can do, there's a few ways that you can tackle this. You can turn the, make this a group. You can you can either bring this floor to the top and change the opacity of this map. This image that we brought in. You do that by going to edit. You can change the opacity down here so you can see it's more transparent. When I put the slider closer to 0, here we just have this like generic thing. So if I change the color a little bit just so that I don't want it to be too obnoxious, let's go like a blue. Okay. So I just actually did that to the top. I didn't mean to. I meant to do it to the whole group. But let's do Control X, make group, then go in here. So on the top, let me just explode this. I have this other color that I painted, and you can change the opacity of that. Now when I go to my top view, I should be able to see some of this other stuff. It looks like there may be a bottom to this as well. It's probably my issue. Just want to make sure you have everything selected and make a group. Yeah, so I have a bottom here. So I'm just gonna make that this color as well. And don't forget you have a bunch of them, like I just did. Okay, we have that. Explode. Okay. So now when we go back to top, we can now see those other lines. So when I come into here, what's happening is I have a certain thing set up that it doesn't work like I want it to. That it hides things depending on if you're in the group. So what I'm going to do is actually, for now, hit Control X to cut that and paste it inside of this group. So it's a group inside of a group. And now I should be able to edit these guys. So we're just going to come across, I'm going to do this really quickly. So let's say 3 foot, 211 is better. Now, if you want these windows equally spaced, I want them sized the same. But you may just want to just make sure that the increment you're using is the same. So maybe this is the same as this. And that's the kind of like little things that may be different in the actual world, but you want to try to maintain the intent sometimes. In this particular case, if you're doing an existing building, you'll want to keep whatever is actually there to a certain extent, because you want to be able to fix things that are not quite what you want. But what comes along with that is that sometimes it's easy to sort of get carried away. Like, oh, I would change all of these things, but most clients don't have an unlimited budget, so it's just important to know your limits with your clients. So let's put this here, and then I'm going to move this up, let's say 4 feet. Again, selecting all that and then moving it up together because I want those windows to be the same size. Now there's like this wall ends here. I'm not sure like what this is doing, but right. So now we have all of these like little walls here, and then we're gonna say, let's say the sill height is, I don't know, 2'6". They're probably not all the same. Let's say these are the same and these are full heights. So I'm going to use the eraser tool, and I'm just going to come down and delete all these guys really quickly. Get rid of these. You can see how powerful the eraser tool becomes. Now there's some like weird stuff on this side. I just want this wall to look really nice. Again, use the eraser tool here. Makes things a little quicker. And I'm just going to push this all the way through. So I do that once, and then I can double click. You can see here though that there's these like faces remaining, so you can just click those and delete them. Sometimes that happens. You just want to make sure that you're not going too far through. But what then you can do is start to put in your windows, depending on what those are. I would make a component to do that, and then go from there. We'll do the same thing here. We have some lines going on. Okay, so I think that line is okay. I think what is happening actually is this line's not okay. Yeah, so we're going to take this down. we go. Make sure I delete these extra lines. Now, in that particular case, a tape measure tool would have been way better than actually just drawing a line, because now I have to do a bunch of work to clean up all that extra stuff. Right? Pull this through. Hit B, and then hit the Alt key to select my default material. And now I have that. So this gives you the basic gist of it. We have this guy. I want to actually bring this out. So we have our walls here, and then paste in place. Our floor is separate. Hit E here, and everything is looking really good. So you just now have to put in your doors and windows and start to put in your appliances. And you can use a 3D warehouse to find those sort of things, or you can make your own. I like to put in things from the 3D warehouse when I can, so I would highly recommend that. But you've taken your sketch and you've made it into a 3D model, and now you can start to take some measurements from it that are nice. So 6'9", stuff like that, 10'8". And you have like nicer dimensions that are more architectural than sort of halves and quarters, and because at the end of the day, architecture isn't that precise. At least what an architect does isn't that precise. The contractor worries about those like tiny little increments, but the intent of what the architect does is to show the intent. That's what the architect's job is to say, like, hey, this is what we're looking for. Your means to get to that end are whatever they are. But it's important for the architect to call out specific areas that may be of concern, that may be like, oh, this is a really important thing I'm going through, and I've thought about it, so that you don't have to. So hopefully this helped. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. And as always, happy hacking.
All right, designers, just because this episode of Designer Hacks is over doesn't mean we're leaving you out in the cold. Tony's got tons of great content available at designerhacks.com. So join Design Nation right now, and we'll see you on the next episode of Designer Hacks.